Welcome to our webinar. So we will start playing first the videos of the Aufguss UK First Championship. For those who missed, this is the recap.
Welcome to the first ever UK Aufguss Championships here at Rudden Park in Harrogate on this glorious day.
We are very happy in Aufguss WM to have our 16th member. It's the United Kingdom, and we are so proud of being here at Rudden Park to see these amazing Aufguss masters.
Thank you so much for joining us. So we have just finished the recap of the first UK Aufguss Championship that happened just about 1 month ago and was in Rudden Park in Harrogate. So we have our people here who can introduce the speakers. So we have, let's check here. So Don will be telling us about his experience of how to decide sauna theater for Aufguss experience. He's the founder and CEO of Design for Leisure, and his company has over 30 years track record of designing and building the high standard, first class hydrothermal experience for spa, both in the US and the UK. So yeah, including the award-winning Sauna Spa in Wellness in Las Vegas. And then we have Lasse Eriksson. He's on a mission to bring sauna to all the people on the planet. A board member of the ISA International Sauna Associations, head of the Norwegian Sauna Associations, vice president of Aufguss WM, a highly skilled and experienced sauna master who has been assisting British Sauna Society with the project to take the first UK team of the sauna, the Aufguss WM. We just witnessed the footage of the Rudden Park this year. So he had the background as a massage therapist, aromatherapist, and professional sauna master for over 25 years. He's a development manager of Farrisbad Spa Resort in Norway and consulting around the world to bring sauna rituals to all the new audience. And we have Deborah Carr. She is the Aufguss lead for the UK team and the UK Aufguss Championship with our British Sauna Society, and the owner of another sauna spa and wellness, and she's the UK representative in the international team of jury members for Aufguss competitions. So yeah, she's also a board member of the British Sauna Society. And myself, my name's Wendy Liu. I'm an architect registered with the RIBA and also a board member trustee of British Sauna Society. I lead the arts and culture program. So myself also a yoga teacher, and I'm very keen sauna enthusiast and train with the sauna rituals. I trained with herbal treatments and sauna yoga in the sauna space. So I'm really looking forward for tonight's talk. So if you have any questions, feel free to post it on our chats. Yeah, so now we welcome our first speaker, Dong, to tell us some of the experience from his design, part of the design for leisure. Off to you.
Thanks, Wendy. Thank you very much. And good evening, everybody, and or whatever time of day it is in your world. Okay, it's a really... When I first agreed to say yes, let's talk about designing event saunas, it all seems so simple. And then, of course, about half an hour ago, I suddenly thought, well, I wonder who I'm talking to, how much does everybody know, and how much do they want to know, and or am I going to sit here and bore everybody silly with getting into ridiculous levels of detail? And I think that maybe we should rather importantly make sure that everybody even understands what an event sauna is. What is the difference between an event sauna and a traditional Finnish sauna? And I think that's where we need to begin that conversation. I mean, event saunas are an evolution. I mean, they're just a derivative of the basic sort of Finnish sauna, and there's lots of people who will have debates as to where eventing within the sauna space originated. I think that the Germans would certainly lay claim to the term Aufguss, and I think they've certainly pioneered the show sauna, as opposed to, I suppose we can even separate things. You can have a show sauna and you can have an event sauna, and for somebody to practice the waving of towels or the using of whisks within a sauna environment, you don't have to get too special, as long as there's room for somebody to move around and to wave the towel. So you need to be careful that the height of your sauna is important, and you've got to make sure you don't have things like sprinklers and what have you, where towels can catch them, and very simple basic requirements like that. But to me, the most important thing about the event sauna is that you've got to get the spatial design right, and you've got to get the ergonomics right. Because if your guests aren't comfortable, then it's firstly never going to work, and if the performers cannot perform, or they cannot perform effectively, and we can't force them into dangerous situations where there is enough space so that the towels don't hit the guests, and all of these things. And of course the other important thing then, of course, is the heat source, your stove, your heater. That is the very heart and the core of the sauna, and that's producing the heat, and that's producing the steam, the vapor that gets waved around by the towels within that sauna. And so these are all the basic principles we've got to get right. Let's not worry about what the appearance looks like and what the AV systems are and how big. So we've got to get people, if they want to build an event sauna, they've got to start with the right amount of space, and that is critical. Then, of course, we've got to make our guests comfortable, and so, for instance, the top bench can be a standard sauna bench depth of 600 millimeters, but benches lower down have to be deeper, because the person at the top bench is going to have to put their feet somewhere, and so therefore there's got to be room behind the person on the bench below them for their feet to be and for that person to sit. So your 600 mil top bench is going to suddenly become 750 mil for the next tier down, and then the next tier down after that. Then again, if we were given a complete a blank piece of paper with the best size we like, it can be a very nice feature to get people's feet completely off the floor. But again, that means that our sauna is getting, or our event sauna is getting wider and wider, because we're taking up floor space for people's feet, and then the performers, they want the floor space. So these are all things that you have to consider. But the critical thing is, can your performers perform, and can your guests feel comfortable? Once you've got over that, then of course you've got to decide how many people you're going to get in there. For those of us who are in Rudding Park, I mean, if there was ever a world record for how many people you can squeeze into a small sauna, then I think we've probably broken it there. I mean, I think somebody's count was 47 at one point, and whilst it was a very nice sauna, it was probably only designed for 20 at the absolute maximum. So great achievement there. But and for all of us who've been to these events, we all realise that people would rather be inside and squashed than outside and not part of it. But this all becomes part of somebody's business plan, because ultimately, if the business doesn't make money and the business doesn't succeed, then you can build the best sauna in the world, and if you get your numbers wrong, then it's not benefiting anybody. So all of these things come into it. So it's got to be sized for the size of the facility. There's no point building a 300-seater event sauna if you're never going to get more than 50 people coming in there at once. And there's nothing more frustrating, of course, than building one that takes 30 people and finding that you get 50 people turning up for every performance, and that's just the money that you're leaving on the table, so to speak. So these are parts of the business planning that you need to discuss with your designer right from the outset. And I'm just going to sit here and talk unless somebody's going to ask me some questions. And and believe me, I could sit here and talk for an hour. But thanks, Barry. But seriously, I'd like to know as well what people would like to hear from us. And I'm certainly not the only person that knows about here. Lasse's sitting there grinning because nobody's asking him questions at the moment. But that guy knows as much about designing event saunas as anybody, and taught me an awful lot of what I know. So, do we have any questions of what specific people want to know?
Can I ask a question?
Good, thank you.
Hi, Tom.
Hi.
Hi. So just talking about minimum requirements on space, what would you consider to be the minimum across the floor? So, obviously the number of benches you're building up on the side of an event sauna can be 2, can be 3, depending on what you've got. But what's the minimum on the floor you need?
Well, if you talk about your top bench being 600 mil and your next bench being 700, then you've immediately got 1350 each side, and then you need a 1500 mil. You need at least 1500 mil between the heater and the bench for your performer, and then you've got to allow for your width of your heater.
Okay.
So, you're suddenly there at three meters for your two 1500s. You've got two 1350s, 2700. So five, you've about 5 meters, 5.5 meters, wide, and that's just for a 2-tier event sauna.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. That's helpful.
Okay, and then of course it can be as long as you like.
Of course.
It's but one of the things that we do always point out is that to avoid 90-degree corners in benching, because you won't get two people sitting on a 90-degree corner, or somebody's going to have to sit with their knees under their chin while somebody else takes the leg space. So you're always better off, cutting your corners and doing a 45 across the corners of any room, so that or even curve it. But obviously, curved benches are more expensive. So you're better off doing a 45 cut off on the corners, so that people can actually then sit around the whole of that space.
Yeah.
Thanks. To give you an idea, the event sauna we built at Resorts World in Las Vegas, and that had an awful lot of accolades, and it seems to work and do the job there. That's 356 square feet, so 35 square meters, and that will certainly hold sort of 40 people, 40 plus people. If you get them in like sardines, it'll probably get 50 plus. But
or a lot more if you really pack them in.
Well, yeah. People always say, well, how many people can you get in a sauna? I always say, well, it depends how good friends they are.
Yeah. And do you think there's a sort of minimum requirement now that you'd recommend, and maybe Deborah can pitch in with this as well, in terms of the sort of audio visual package that you'd include to make something what as you would consider a proper event sauna? Can you give us some guidelines around that?
Well, if you're going to go the full blown event sauna with a full AV package. Now then, I will let me get something up here on the screen for you, and I will show you an event sauna drawing with the full AV package on there. So let's. Okay, we can all see that. Yeah. Okay. Well, this is a real sauna. This is the one I was talking about in Las Vegas. So it's U-shaped with the benches all going around one end. As I mentioned before, we got the heater in the center. We've got the 750 bottom bench, the 600 top bench, and then in the ceiling we have 5 windows, and then directly above those windows then we have the lighting rig on a triangular aluminium truss, and over each window there are 5 different lights. Okay, we've got an ultraviolet light in there, which the principal purpose of the UV is it makes the towels look really good. But so you've got a UV strip light in there, and then there are water feature lights that will project moving water patterns onto the floors and the benches, and then there is a moving head effect light in there, which will whiz around and give you all sorts of lighting effects, shining across that room. And then there's also a spotlight. There's a spotlight up there again, which can be moved to give you different lighting effects. Then the speakers, the subwoofers are under the benches. There are 2 big subwoofers under the benches, and then there are 4 wall-mounted speakers equally spaced around there. So that is I think that's probably as good as you're ever going to get if you want to go the whole 9 yards and build a true event sauna there. Does that answer that question?
Incredible. Yeah, that's incredible. Looks like a basic theaters in there. So we have some question on the side, but I think in general, we want to maybe have a key point in terms of the key consideration that you kind of touch base earlier. Like for example, what is the advantage of having the stove in the middle rather than on the side? And kind of what's your opinion on that?
Sorry, are you still seeing the my screen with that drawing?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I just thought you showed the section there. Okay, Wendy, I'll come on to that one. But just as you can see here that on the roof line as well, we've kept the roof as low as we can over the benches so that we minimize that, and then we've raised the roof a little in the center. So it gives the performers a little bit of extra headroom for waving the towels. On the reason for let me get the plan up here. So the reason for putting the heater, this sauna here has actually got 5 heaters. It's got 2 under the benches over this side and 2 under the benches here. And then we have 1 heater in here for the performers. Now, ideally, we'd have liked to have more in the center, but I mean, space, even on a sauna this size, space was a limitation. So that was why we used the underbench heating to get the temperature we wanted with just the 120 kilowatt heater in the center here. Would have been nice to have had 2. Turned it through 90 degrees and had 20 kilowatts in the center, but it was just a case we were taking away too much space from the performers to do that. But what this allows is the performers the guy can wave the heat from this side across to the guests over this side and vice versa. So it means that it gives the sauna master the ability to equally distribute the heat around the whole of the sauna to all of the guests. And this little space at the back here is actually, it's actually quite an important space, because this is where the sauna master will be able to keep their buckets, their ice balls, and all of their equipment. And they will often use more than 1 sets of towels or what have you, or they'll use 2 towels at a time. So again, they need this little haven around here to be able to share the space. In an ideal world, we couldn't do it because the site didn't have the space. In an ideal world, it's even nice to have 2 doors and reserve this central space here for the sauna master to have that 100% to themselves behind the heater. And again, the 2 doors are also useful for one for getting fresh air in there before the sauna, before the performances, but it also helps everybody to get out quickly as well, because everyone's rushing and wanting to leave at the end of a performance to go and find themselves a cold shower or a cold pool. Wendy, a long answer to a short question.
I think somebody was asking, Don, how many people will fit comfortably into that sauna?
We worked this out, and they did their numbers on 40 people. But I mean, I've been in there, and I've been in there with 30 odd people, and there's plenty of room.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say that it wouldn't be uncomfortable if you had 50 in there.
I think we even could go almost up to 60 when you sit, like we did in Rudding Park. So it could.
A Rudding Park, we get 70 left there. It's yes, but no, it's a good size. But again, it's a lot of real estate given over to a sauna. So I mean, again, if investors are putting this sort of money into an event sauna, then there's got to be some serious business planning around it. These are not just there for the photo shoot. I mean, these things have got to earn their keep. I mean, Lasse is certainly your man to talk about on how to make money out of these features. I mean, it's I'm not asking you to share all your business secrets, Lasse, but it's important. Of course, it's important to the investors to get a return on this.
Yeah, I can follow up a little bit on that one, Dom. First of all, when people want to go into the event sauna part, the main key is the intention. What do you really want? Do you want to use it as an event sauna? Do you want to use it as an Aufguss? Do you want to also be able to use it for different other purposes? Do you want to use whisking? Do you want to do big social singing in there, or yoga, or whatever? So people have to understand kind of what do you really want to do with the room, because it demands space. And that's why we very often ask the first question, how do you want to use it, and what do you really want? And if it's only for Aufguss or show Aufguss, then we design it in that way. Because the key is that we design these saunas for the sauna master or the Aufguss master to give the best Aufguss possible for the guest. And that's the rhythm of it. So it's designed for the Aufguss master, not for the guest as a primary way, which is quite different in a regular sauna, where we design it for the sauna who sits in. But also the thing of designing these is that we do also, especially when we do event saunas, for people who want to use it for different purposes. If you want to use whisking too inside, or if you want to do other things, then we very often we lower the roof a bit. A traditional sauna is, what is it, 250? But for doing Aufguss, we need a little bit higher. But if you want to do whisking, we cannot go 350 because it's used for your steam. And also how we work with the benches on the top row of the benches. Normally it's 120, 130, the maximum height from the top bench to the roof. But if you want to do whisking, you should have that height. You shouldn't go much higher. So we have to ask the client kind of how do you want to use it in the future, in the next year, 5 years, 10 years? And if we see that the event is the main key, and they're going to do whisking in another sauna, because also we follow that one. Some spas or sauna spots, they have 10 saunas or 15 saunas. Then they build a separate Aufguss sauna or event sauna just for show. And then we can lift it, like we did in the Vegas thing. We lifted it, we did it big, and for kind of the Aufguss masters to do this. But if they want to do other things as well, then we need to take that into account. How do we design the oven? How do we design the place? If you want to have it kind of as a regular sauna, should the guests be able to go in whenever they want to, or just for the show? And these things also have to be taken into account, which we see when we work with management and the management of it. Because back to the question where Don was talking, the revenue of this. What we have seen around is that most of the time people build too small. The moment you start, it becomes that popular, it fills up. And this is different for spas. Our normal revenue, normal cost is that we say a revenue for one-to-one, because wellness in spas has always been therapist who is doing a massage or a skincare, and then you have the client. It's a one-to-one customer ratio. And what happens here is that suddenly you have a 1-to-100 customer ratio, which makes you have one person cost to hold these things for 15-20 minutes. And then you can bring in maybe 20 euro for half an hour per person. And then you suddenly start to see that there's lots of money into this. Also, you have the F&B revenue, which we also in Aufguss we see that the increase of the F&B revenue is about 15 to 20% after a ceremony. So people are thirsty, they get hungry, their metabolism starts to work. They want to do these breaks, they need a break. And that's where it comes in for one part of the revenue things too. Just to follow up a little bit on that one. I don't know if that was what you were searching for, but yeah.
I think if we look at the UK specifically, I mean we are the British Sauna Society here today, but the UK is very similar to the United States in a way that this is a very new concept. I mean, to my knowledge, there isn't a purpose-built event sauna anywhere in the UK at the moment. And well, I mean, many years ago we built some quite large saunas for Virgin Active, who had always had the intention that they were going to do have Aufguss, but they never got around to it, to the best of my knowledge. But and this one we're looking at the drawing, this was the first event sauna in the United States. I mean, so when you're pioneering something, we've got to try and make these as multifunctional as possible. So yes, make them of a dimension where if people want to do hot yoga in them, then they can do hot yoga in them, or sauna yoga even. But you try and give as many opportunities for revenue generation as you possibly can. I mean, as Lasse said, I mean, some of these big European, facilities, got 15 saunas and all different sizes, shapes, temperatures, themes, and purpose built for different functions. Now, no investors in the UK are going to suddenly go in and suddenly, become a sauna center with 15 saunas. So this is going to be a case of, let's go slowly, get it right. And this was Las Vegas, so they spent $100,000 on their audiovisual equipment, but you don't have to spend that money on that sort of level of AV for these to work. I mean, I think the sound is good. The sound system is important in something like this, but you get great acoustics in a sauna anyway. But so a good sound system. But do you need 5 windows with 5 lights above each window? Probably not.
No, and you're totally right, I think, and you had it also earlier. One of the challenges about creating an Aufguss sauna or event sauna is very often location. It's not only the sauna who demands space. The Aufguss master demands space, the sauna takes space, but you have all these things around it, the equipment. You have a tech room where all the equipment will be, the preparation for the sauna masters who need all their equipment to use, and it demands lots of extra space around the premises, which very often people don't think about, that actually you need to prepare for that too. So how can you find the space for it when you build an event sauna, where you kind of can fit both the preparation, both technicals, and all these things around the system. And not only that, but also the guests, you would suddenly have 50 people coming waiting to go in. And where are they going to wait? How are they going to prepare? Where are they going to stand? When they're finished, everyone wants to go out. How do they cool down? Do you have 1 shower? Do you have 20 showers? Or do you have 4 or 5 different ways to go? Some can go into the ocean, if you're lucky, and some go into the showers, some can go into the wardrobes. You need to plan the way of everyone going out or fresh air, if that's possible. So a lot of this planning, which we also did in the Vegas, Don, was also kind of where do they go afterwards when they're waiting outside? How do they wait outside before they go in? All these things we have to take in account, which makes the event sauna demand a bit space. And not only the sauna itself, but everything around it, which is a big investment, because it's it's always the space, which is how much money you get out of the square meters of space you got, which has to be taken into account. But when you first have a success with it, when you work, when you build it right, when people move the right way, and then it's perfect. And how can I say it? I'm actually wearing this shirt. I'm going to show you here. This is the Satama. This is where the World Championships in Aufguss will be this year. It's the 10th anniversary. And for all Aufguss masters, the professional ones around the world, this is the prime sauna in the world for Aufguss sauna. There is no screens in there. There's no high technology in there. The reason why the Aufguss masters and everyone loves it, one thing is that they were first. It's always be coming home to your cradle. The first one who does it, like we try to do in the UK. The first who have the event sauna in the UK will always be the one, right? So what we see then with the Satama is that the Aufguss master connects with the audience amazingly there, and the audience connects with the Aufguss master. So the space for the Aufguss master to do the magic is there, and the steam is there, and everything we have is set. Now my daughter just come home, so so it's the Satama has that magic of being the first, but also how the design of it and the connection between the audience and the Aufguss master, and that's where the key comes in, because how can I say it? I've been in magical saunas, but with a really bad Aufguss master, and it just doesn't work. But I've been in really bad saunas with a magical Aufguss master, and it's been magical. So when we design these, it's also when we come to the management, we need to find the people. The people is the key to make these places. We can build the most amazing spaces, but when we build these spaces, we build them for them so they can shine. And when they shine, they create magic. And that's where it comes in. So that's the ultimate design, which Don does, and what we work around with is to design the best playground for these people to shine, to create magical moments. And that's where Satama is in Berlin. For those of you who haven't been there, please come down in September to experience the World Championships. Thank you.
That's brilliant. It's very insightful. So I can imagine it's designing a journey, like the why you want to do this, and it's a storytelling. It's bringing more kind of emotional experience, and that's what we see in the some of the theater performances. Actually, will be a lot of other experience to create. Maybe Deborah can chip in some your thought about how do you feel when you kind of your first experience in terms of like the organizer and also performers when you used the sauna as a theater.
Yeah, sure. I think overall, my sort of general thoughts are build it and they will come, because I think it's a bit sort of self-fulfilling, really. If a little bit like what Lasse said is, watching the magic happen when these Aufguss masters perform and when they're enjoying it and they're in the moment is just absolutely fantastic, because you see every guest in there is just engaged in what they're doing. And they go away and they tell their friends and they talk about the event that they've been to. And then it starts to grow from there. And from an Aufguss master's point of view as well, is working in these gorgeous saunas, you just on another level from where that magic happens. You give a little bit more, you enjoy the performance, you see the reaction and the response from your guests. And it just grows from there, and it just makes it more and more magical. So I think having that space to work and that freedom to create these moments is just wonderful. And I think we're just ready for that in the UK. It showed at the championships, when we're all in like sardines, everybody just enjoyed that moment. None of the guests were concerned that they were squashed up next to somebody, which they in another environment may have been. And I think that was just wonderful to see, and that energy that is then created in that sauna is then sort of that synergy between the Aufguss master and the audience just creates, like Lasse said, that magic. And I think we're sort of ready for that now in the UK.
Okay, fantastic.
Does that answer your question?
Oh no, it's just a discussion, so it's quite nice to share, this sort of more insightful experiences. I'm sure there's like lots of questions that created from all the, sharing people's, your journeys, your experiences. So, for example, I will, have a, both of all of you mentioned that's not actually a purposely built sauna for events, especially in the UK. And what would you say as a quick fix to upgrade for, a sauna into a theater styles? What would be some of the key ingredients that people want to, spa managers or somewhere they have space want to try it out, from your point of view, from design, from organizer, from performers, what we can take away in terms of,
I think to consider sort of remodeling existing saunas. I mean, to remodel existing sauna, if you've got one that's big enough, it's got the floor space to be remodeled. That can almost be as expensive a task as starting again, because there is so much to be done. You end up having to change all your benches, you change all your heaters, all your heater positions, and you go on and on and on, and it just gets more complicated. I mean things like something we haven't mentioned, but ventilation within an event sauna is very different to the ventilation you would have in a conventional sauna. Traditionally, saunas only have very low levels of ventilation, 4 to 6 air changes per hour. But for an event sauna, you'd increase that to sort of 10 air changes per hour. But you'd also wherever you could possibly do so is bring in fresh air underneath your heater. That's something that you would struggle to do in a remodel. But if in a purpose built, if it's at all possible to bring fresh air in directly below the heater, it's a massive advantage. I mean, on this one in the image you can see now, I mean that has got a 150 mil diameter air duct coming directly underneath that heater, bringing to 20 degrees Celsius fresh air in under that heater. So things like that, they come into it, and with the sound system, I mean, okay, you can add a sound, you can always retrofit a sound system, you can always hide subwoofers under benches in existing saunas. I mean, and you're always better having more speakers than just one big one. If you're talking about not your subwoofers under the benches, but I'm talking about around the walls, because one of the things is that people always imagine the event sauna and sort of loud music coming through club quality sound systems and heaven knows what else. But in fact, Lasse has very successfully sent me to sleep in a sauna with a completely different type of event. It was shamanic in its style. It was relaxing. It was all about herbs. It was about burning herbs. It was about the smoke and the aromas and everything else you got in there. And it was a sort of a laying down experience, and the whole thing is designed to bring you down rather than pump you up and enthuse you through the traditional performances we're talking about. So and using whisks again it is different, and so you need to sort of look at all of these things, but the thing is they're all great. I know I mentioned money, but they're all revenue streams. Because if you cater to your crowd who want to use experience hot yoga or sauna yoga, then you've got the people who want to experience the more spiritual side of it, and then you've got the people who want to come and hear the loud music and there's rev me up, pump me up, and all the rest of it. Fantastic, but that is really, really important for the investors and the operators to consider when they're embarking upon these projects. Is you've got to squeeze as much juice out of this lemon as you possibly can.
Can I ask a question?
Sorry, Mark, continue.
Yeah. So with that in mind, Don, that's interesting to hear that. So if you were investing as an operator and looking at a more hybrid model, because obviously it might be difficult to really predict where you're going to get the most traction and whether or not you're going to go down a full show sauna route, or whether you want to do some of the other rituals and so on. And so coming back then to the design, is that something that so looking at the model in front of us on screen, is that something that you would then adapt, be able to, and to a certain extent, put in place the things that are really needed and then add later on if necessary as you're going forward? So how would you incorporate that sort of hybrid model into your design?
Well, I think it's a case that you try altering. For instance, if you said, look, we won't do all the theatre lighting to start with. We'll have maybe, like you can see here, the backrest lighting and the underbench lighting. I mean, that's relatively low cost. That's LEDs. You put RGB in there. You can change the entire color of the whole sauna just by the lighting that you can have under the benches and in the backrest. You could have some small spotlights in the ceiling, which will add to that changing, and they can feature on the heater as well. And so you can just do simple things. So now that would not detract from the fun. I think as long as you've got a good sound system in there, so you can turn it up or turn it down low, but you get good distribution of sound and even distribution of sound within there, then doing all of those things are great to start with. But if you suddenly say, oh, I want all my theatre lighting, and I suddenly want to go and cut five double glazed heat resistant glass panels into the ceiling and hang a strut over the top and sling all my theatre lighting off there, we're back to the sort of, is it cheaper to knock it down and rebuild time, So I think it's just a case of saying, look, we're not ready in this country for a Vegas style job. Let's leave that for 10 years time. Let's start on something, because quite honestly, the first event sauna that gets built in this country is going to be the best. And of course, it's going to be the first, but it's going to be the best because it'll be the only one. But it'll one that gets all the traction, and is the one that everybody will be talking about. And and I think that's anybody brave enough to put a toe in the water, but you don't have to spend $500,000 on it.
Thanks.
I mean, you're looking at this. I mean, if that round end, I mean, that's not just curving all your benches. I mean, if you look at that sloping ceiling, at the back there, you think of every single strip of that wood has got a different shape and a different angle, and every single one of those is different. So that is a huge amount of money goes into that sort of level of design and detailing, which is just not essential.
Yeah.
Thanks, Don. I think that's very great to find out what is essential, was the basic, though. Then we kind of led to some other questions from people. Say, what will be the threshold, say the minimal size or the minimal for in terms of square meters or people to be like building an event sauna that it's worth a while? Do you, I think, either yourself or Lasse think, what would be the threshold in terms of, do we have a number?
I seriously think that The thing is, the difference between building a 25 square meter sauna and a 35 square meter sauna, is not that significant a difference. I mean, the fact it's nearly double in size doesn't mean it's nearly double in price. So it's like everything else. It's to build the biggest one you can afford. Because as Lasse said, you'll be very surprised how popular these performances will become once you build a reputation.
Understand, great. But of course, I mean, because I noticed some places they run, every in Germany or some more or in Denmark or the Netherlands, they run every hour, every half an hour. So actually people have choices. They don't have to go into one at the same time. And also they will have some break. So kind of to break out, using one sauna extensively, right? I'm just trying to kind of look for some questions and in the chat. And some of them mention ventilations. I think you already touch base about the ventilations.
I can explain a little bit about the ventilation under the oven, the reason for it. Just to give a quick one, because in event sauna, we work with aromatherapy through very often either dry herbs or essential oils, or we do teas or things, and we steam them on the oven. And when we steam them off the oven, the cold air comes through, it heats up, and it pushes the essential oils and the smells through the air, compared to different where you have the fresh air coming higher. In the regular sauna, sometimes it comes on the high end, and sometimes they bring it by the oven. The essential oils and the event sauna is pushing a lot of smells, herbs and all these things to everyone in the sauna room. And that's why we put also the oxygen, the fresh oxygen underneath, because it helps to push the smells. It helps to push the aromas around when we work with it. Also, we need to kind of work with the steam a lot more when we do this in the Aufguss, because we have to move it. So we start in the center and then we move it to each corners, very differently than what we do in regular sauna or whisking. And I also want to add with Don here, I do it in my sauna here in Norway. I have built a big one for 100 people. I can push the lower bench in, and then I can do whisking, and people like to lie down. If you're not only doing Aufgusses, but you can do so much more. If you want to do meditations, people can lie down. They have space for yoga, deep meditations, deep journeys in 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour, 5 hour, whatever you feel like. You can do that too, because you have space for it. You create the space to do these types of journeys. With good storytellers, you can bring amazing long, good stories for people to relax in the sauna room. Because to be relaxing in a room with about 50, 60 degrees, it's very comfortable. And then you can steam up, or you can even increase on the top bench. Of course, it's 70 degrees because that's the sauna rule. But you can kind of give people different journeys when you have space for it, which is quite difficult to do in a big social aspect when you have smaller saunas. And that's what happens in this room when you can kind of also everyone is lying down. Like Don said, he fell asleep in one of my ceremonies. But we bring people into the deep relaxation state. You don't always, this is not circus, it can be that too, but it's still a sauna. We're working with Lolu. It's still that thing, the essence of the knowledge of the Aufguss master, to how to work with the steam and how to connect with the people. And that's the key. The only thing we do design here is that we design the optimal space for that person to have fun in different ways, both for fun and party or whatever, but also deep, deep relaxation. And that's where it comes in, this mix of doing event sauna. So yeah, just to follow up a little bit on the steam underneath the oven, so you know.
Brilliant. That's really insightful, because I think we probably would not know how to compare, there's just started question of compare the normal, the regular sauna or the event sauna. That is quite a unique point to point out.
We even have cooling in the floor. But that's another, we can talk about that later, because you have to have it in an event sauna.
Oh, I'd love to hear that, because then it means like we got, looks like we need another section. Now only 3 minutes to go. So Mark, you have some burning questions.
I had a quick follow-up question for Lassie. You just mentioned there, just very quick, I don't want to get too stuck on this, but you mentioned, I think, that the benches in the big sauna at Farasbad are adaptable, so you can pull them in and out. Is that correct? Okay, and that's quite simple to create that. That's really interesting.
I did it because I want to have a multi-use of my sauna. In the next 15 years, we do whisking too, So my roof is lower, more classic, and I push it down. So I have 1 meter and 30 centimeters from the top bench to the roof. My oven is, about 80 centimeters of the ground. It's lower oven because I want to work with the steam in that way. But it also works for Aufguss and for events. But I had a different approach, because I don't want it just for that. I want it for many different tasks, and to be able to do that. And that's where I come with the first thing I said, is the intention of the spa. What do they want? Do they want to do just the Aufguss, and every hour, every 45 minutes, we do Aufgusses like in many spas? But very often they do it because they have 20 different saunas, Then they have a separate Aufguss sauna just for that. But when we see in the UK, I'm not sure, but maybe, the spas, they don't have that many. So they have to see a multi-use of the sauna room, compared to the full one. And the one we did with Rob and Don and I did in Vegas is that this can be used to deep relaxation, because you also have the wider benches to lie down, but also you don't get the feet up your butt from the guy behind. But also the sound system. When you have a really good sound system, music has power. And good sound system makes people deeply relax if you have a really good sound system. And then you can bring them into the deepest meditation. Also with that, it doesn't always our party, but AC/DC, it's also good on Friday at 7, right? So it can work.
Fantastic. Just to say, so basically, some people ask question about wood fire, but I have a feeling most of the event sauna here are electric, right? That's probably easier for the management side. Have you ever kind of any comment on that?
Yeah, I mean, the vast majority are electric, because you're talking, 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 kilowatts of heat. I mean, if you were going to use some form of, if you were going to try and do that with wood, I mean, you'd have a team of guys, a huge oven and a team of guys loading the thing all the time. It just increases your operating cost enormously when you suddenly bring in a lot of labor. But I think that's that's one of the main issues with the natural material burning.
Okay, great. Yes, totally agree with that. One thing I want to just have one sort of observation from you have the plan here, which is very useful. You have the wheelchair turning circles in one part, which has helped a lot of some question previously. People ask about building accessible sauna for wheelchair users. So maybe one of these event sauna are actually quite kind of advanced or suitable to cater that part of the users' needs. So, I mean,
this is Wendy. This is in the United States, so everything must be accessible.
Great.
Again, and even if you look at the top side here, The bench narrows down along that last section. If you can see, we could just joggle the bench in, and this bench here, because the ADA or the disabled depth of a bench in America is governed by law. So where we have got the 75 centimeter or 750 millimeter benches, all around the rest of it, here we had to reduce it because the maximum bench depth for disabled transfer is 24 inches. So we could only have a 24-inch or a 60 centimeter bench in this area here, and this bench on the left side here, that is removable. So that retracts, so the wheelchair can pull in to that location, and then the adjacent bench has to be 42 inches, and I'm not sure what that is in metric, but it's about about 1,100 millimeters. But it's going to be about 1,100 millimeters. So we've got a lot of laws governing disability access, but it isn't hard to design. But particularly when you're creating space for your performance. Your 1,500 for your performer is your 1,500 for your disabled, turning circle. So, and it's great. It's great. Make them inclusive, because why not?
Yeah, brilliant. I think that would be the way to go, So it's just a very nice you show this plan. So I'm cautious about time. I just like us to wrap up. There's a couple questions here. So once we're done, I will just say, hopefully, looks like this 1 hour gone very quickly. So, just to keep an eye on our website, on our informations. We really hope to hold another session very soon. But to wrap up, just see Lindsay have a quite insightful sort of comment here. She said, love build it and they will come, from Deborah. And to what extent, of course, the panels here, like the first ever UK national hit has grown the appetite and interest, in other venues. So you mentioned the Alpha Mare in Scarborough have a big enough, and Thumé group is talking about planning in Manchester, etc., but probably not until 2025. So this is the secret. We don't know when. So
neither do they.
Yeah, like very insightful. That we continue the questions and keep building, perfected, the good sauna for events. So any panel, kind of think about what the timeline look like. Do you have any, thought on that? So on that note, I want to kind of make an announcement here, because as a British Sauna Society, we are the organizer of the UK Aufguss Championship. So we just post the website there, the link for more information. You can sign up for our mailing list, especially for Aufguss. Any news, any events, any talks, any questions. And also we are on the lookout for the next year's events. So if you know anyone or any spas or interested in either applying to host the event for next year, and the contribution of like how to design building it, please do get in touch with us and email us. There's a form to sign up. Yeah, what else? There's one of the questions from Japan. Projector. So anyone want to answer their questions in terms of they just finished, you guys just come back from Japan, in terms of they just done the national Aufguss championship there. So Lasse, you have some answer for that.
I can answer that, but I also have a small thing to add in the end. First of all, Japan has TV in their saunas for 100-degree sauna. So I love Japan in that way because of the culture. And I know what I see, and this is just to be a little bit serious on the point, from the ISA point of view and Aufguss VM point of view. And I run a spa here in Norway. The young people have grasped the Aufguss as a new movement to work within the sauna room. They are showing us the future. They are pushing ahead. that, okay, they see that there is something here that kind of gives them a momentum, way of being inside the sauna room without being on that mobile phone. They are flocking into this Aufguss world, also in Japan. And in any country we see it happens. What's nice to see on the behalf of ISA is that the Aufguss, it opens the door to the universe of deeper spiritual sauna journeys, like the pits. The pits will never be European big like it is now if it wasn't for Aufguss, where we see Mara and Benoit and those people sharing it. It comes through all these different cultures, like the Pirtis and the Saun and Sauna. We try to open the door to the traditional way for the young generation through Aufguss. And the Aufguss is also showing the way and how we can do it in the future. Because it's not always to look back in time. It's always something also to look forward in time. It's very easy to always think, we always did it this way. But maybe it's something new coming in the horizon, which can make it even better. We cannot stay in the old tradition all the time. Traditions always evolve. And that's what I also believe the Aufguss can help for the sweat journey around the globe. Also in Japan and Mushiburo and Karaburo and all these beautiful things we have in Japan too. So I would just want to end with that, and that's where I kind of see. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Sorry, Wendy, just very quickly, Mayumi from Japan asked about how you stop your lights cooking when you and your projectors when you're using them in an event sauna. So I just pulled that image back up so that Mayumi can, if they're still here, can see how to stop cooking your lights.
Right. Great. Thank you so much for that. So hopefully, that answered your question, Mayumi. That was a brilliant question. And thank you everyone for all the questions and comments and joining us. So let's join me in a round of applause for Dawn, Lasse, and Deborah, who are joining us for share your experiences and knowledge and wisdoms. And thank you all your contribution with your questions here. And also want to say, for those, if you missed the Aufguss swim in the UK. So there's also our BSS have a YouTube channels. You can watch some of the catch-up videos there, as well as want to thank Dawn from Design for Leisure. You have we will not kind of achieve this without your generous sponsorships. So I really want to thank you for that too on behalf of BSS, and also thanks Lasse for bringing in the Aufguss experience, to the UK, and Deborah, you are the hardcore superpower woman. How to bring this first UK Aufguss swim, to the world. So of course there's also Mika and the whole BSS team who's already here, like Gabrielle's and Katie's, and just here use this chance to thank everyone. And Lindsay have been very supportive. That's fantastic. So let's keep in touch. We hopefully have more this talk coming along soon. Do send us emails, any questions, and we hope to help answer and organize more events when we can. That's great. Thanks a lot.